Hello again. It is time for March's TBR, or not TBR, March's reading wrap up. We're talking about the books I read in March, not the ones I was supposed to read in March. That's a different video that was talked about. So, I read a total of 9 books. This is 7 of them. 2 were ebooks. So, we're going to talk about them, my ratings, my thoughts briefly. And if you are new to the channel, my name is Lily of Lily's Book Vlog, and I do reading wrap-ups, reading TBRs. I'm trying to do more reading vlogs, challenges, stuff like that. And like I said, today I'm going to talk about the books I read in March. So we're going to start with the ones that were ebooks because it's just easier for me to get them out of the way so that I can focus on the ones I can still physically have and see and talk about. So the first one is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. This is kind of like, so what's the other book? Her books tend to have these really long titles that are like very unique, but also a little hard for me to remember. But I read her other book, which was A Regular Society for Witches or something. But it's similar, but not quite. So this one is following a girl whose name I forgot already, but basically she lives with her aunt. She's like being like privately apprenticed or interned at this big magical school by this one guy. But one day her aunt collapses and dies in the backyard, and there's a magical fox who talks to her about how to bring her aunt back to life, which is against the rules. And so she brings her aunt back to life, and then she basically gets like kind of banished from the magical society. Like no one's allowed to help her, no one's supposed to help her, or they'll get in trouble because she was a really, really powerful witch. She was the person who was like mentoring her was the most powerful, and she was supposed to be like up there with him as a child. So she gets banished, basically told she can't go no more. 10 years later, she's helping run the inn with her aunt, and she has her nephew who is going to the school as well, kind of. And basically she learns that there's this spell that can help her because when she did the spell to bring her aunt back, she lost a lot of her magic. And so she learns 10 years later there's a book that can help her, but she can't get to it because it's in the magical school and all that. And then there's a librarian who works at the school with some other professors who's busy trying to also take care of his sister who has autism. She's on the spectrum. And basically, he's struggling because she doesn't fit in at home, but she doesn't fit in with the structure of the school as well. So he's trying to find out what's best for her because, like, she also has magic. And so, one of the professors, or like, kind of his like supervisor, basically says, "Hey, go to this place, right? I got a place for you. Go here. Take a few days, rest, recuperate, right?" And so he goes, and then he finds out that it's the one girl's inn, which only allows people who really need it, and he really needed it, I guess. And he goes in, and then he kind of starts helping her, and then like there's things in between that are happening. And I gave this book a 4 stars. It's one of those books where it was really cute and cozy and fun, and I really liked the fact that it did have like different representations because the aunt had a club foot, so she had like a limp. The main character, she's kind of, I think she's like Indian or like darker skinned, right? So like she doesn't fit in because most people at the school are white, Americans, Europeans, all that. So she doesn't fit in because of that. And then, of course, with the librarian's sister being autistic, it shows the mental, developmental issues and stuff. So I really like that. It's just there's some parts where it was like little just didn't fit. Like there's something that just didn't fit. And the ending was cute, but I feel like I wanted a little more because yeah. So I like that one. It's cute, it's cozy, it was nice. It did really remind me kind of the Irregular Society for Witches. I think it's called, like I said. Hard to remember. But it was really kind of like that, but I think I also liked it a little more. Next one was The Correspondent. This one I have seen so many people talk about, so many people love. And at first, I was struggling. I was struggling to understand why it mattered reading this lady's letters back and forth between anyone and everyone. She was writing to her brother in France, and then she was writing to like her friend who I think is in LA. She's over in like Seattle or Washington. And then she's writing to like a customer service agent and like random authors and stuff. And it was like one of those things where I was just like, what is the point? Like 50% in, and I was like, what is the point of this? Like it just didn't make sense to me at first. And then like stuff started to happen to where it was like, oh, okay, this is why it's happening. This is what you're supposed to get. So I ended up giving this book 5 stars. I understand people who, again, maybe didn't, but I think it's just one of those things where it's like the slow buildup of seeing her build all these relationships and to have it where certain things are being like lost or taken away, or like she's seeing all the mistakes she made in her past by talking to these people, whether they're random customer service agents or authors and stuff. It kind of just shows like her growth in life as she's getting older and having to realize that her time might be coming soon, because she's like, I think she's like 60 something in the beginning, and then she like ends up at 70 near the end of the book or something. So I like that one. I get the idea, and the concept of the letters and different corresponding ways was interesting. So I did enjoy that. Next one is Ink Blood Sister Scribe. This was one of the books on my TBR pile. This one I've been grabbing and trying to read several times, mostly because I like the cover and the title, but I never actually took the jump to do it. And this time I did, and at first I was also really bored with this at first, like the first 20, 30 pages. I was like, oh my god, because it's following 2 sisters who grew up in a house where their dad has a bunch of magical books, and they were only stuck in the house. They weren't allowed to really leave too much. Like they could leave occasionally, but they had to be home at a certain time and stuff. And one of the sisters, after she turns 18, she's forced to go away and constantly move and like not allowed to come back. The other sister, she stays at home. Her dad and her mom um, ended up getting divorced. The mom leaves. The dad's there. She's staying with her dad in this house. And she has to constantly set these wards to protect the books and the magic that they have. And then one day she comes back and her dad is dead with a book. And her mom's constantly trying to get her to leave and like let the wards down, and just like she's like, it's a prison, just go, just leave. Um and she doesn't want to. And then the other sister, she's told that she has to move every year on this date, or else the people who killed her mother, because they don't have the same mom, they have the same dad, but the person who killed her mother will come after her. And so that part was kind of boring at first because it's like just talking about the stuff. And then it got to the third point of view, which was Nicholas, who is kind of living the rich life, but he's like literally paying for his life to get it, because he's like, the only way these magical books can be written is by a scribe who has it where their blood is the only thing that can help write the spells and like all that, and there's specific rituals, and he is currently the last scribe, and his uncle is the one who's like benefiting from it. And so after that you learn a lot of crazy stuff, and like it goes pretty fast and quick, and like I got like almost near the end and I'm like, we're almost to the end and we haven't gotten to the part where they're gonna take care of everything. I was like, is this the first book in a series or something? No, it ends perfectly clean and neat and like okay, fine. And I was confused about that. So that's my one gripe, is that this book was slow in the beginning and then the end was just so fast and quick, and then like the ending kind of just felt like lackluster for what like was being built up. Then it just was like you're like, oh, like you're on a roller coaster going up and down, and then you're up and you're expecting to go down and you just go flat. That's what it kind of felt like. So I did give this one a 3.5. It was interesting, but the beginning was really slow. There's some plot holes also near the end that I'm still confused about. So I don't know about that, but it was difficult. Next was another March TBR, which was City of Villains. This is a YA book, and it focuses on, what's her name, Mary Elizabeth Hart. She's a high school senior. She lives in an area where there used to be magic, but now it's gone. But there's still people who want it to come back, and then there's people who don't and say just get over it. And she lost her parents and her sister brutally in a murder, and so she's trying to become a detective to like do the same thing that the person did who found her family's murder. But she's also kind of on the wrong side, because the people who like have magic or had magic are kind of like the bad kids. Like people view them as like bad and stuff. And so the fact that she's trying to work with law enforcement makes her look bad to the people that she's a part of the group and stuff. But then she's also not able to fit in with the others because of that. But then she gets a chance to follow a missing person report, which turns out to be way more crazy and weird and stuff. And the ending was like really crazy and weird and like slightly doesn't make sense. So I gave this one a 3 star because there's just a lot kind of going on that's like a little kiddish, but also a lot that's going on that like just doesn't fully make sense. Like explaining how they lost their magic, there's not really an explanation other than like there's this thing called the Great Fall. And then like what was happening kind of at the end where they were explaining like what was going on with the people who were missing kind of also didn't fully make sense. It's a lot of like confusion. I am curious though with the second book. This is a part of a series. There's a second and a third. I am curious a little bit, so I might check out the second one. But yeah, this one was interesting, but a lot of confusion in regards to the magic of their world and the people. So there's that one. Um, Next is Legends and Lattes. This one is a library book I picked up, and I needed something kind of cozy, light, fun, easy, right? And so my daughter suggested this one, read it, and it was pretty cozy, pretty like simple and easy, and like nothing too like adventurous and stuff. It did have, of course, some drama going on, which was kind of interesting. Um, and like it wasn't bad. It was just like a nice, cozy, like fantasy. I think one thing I wish I would have known more is about kind of Viv's past. Like you get a brief glimpse in like the first chapter or so or two, and you get like brief little glimpses in between. But I think to understand fully her motivation, it would have been nice to kind of have like a before. Like there's a prequel at the end of it where it says like new bonus prequel, right? And if I knew how it was going to be, I probably would have read that before, and maybe that would have kind of helped more with understanding like her motivation for not wanting to like continue doing like bounty hunting and being a big aggressive ogre kind of thing, or orc. I forgot what it was. I think it's orc. Dun, 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 dun. Does not say. But yeah. So I gave this one a 3.5. Like I said, it was fun. It was interesting. It has a good, nice kind of like found family vibe, and it was cozy and good. It's what I needed at the time. But it was just also kind of lacking some stuff that I wanted, like information about the character before and kind of about the other character. So, wish there was a little more on that, but that's okay. Next one is Tourist Season. This is one of my books from 26 books I want to read in 2026, and it's just one that I wanted to read because I have read all of the Bryn Weaver Ruinous trilogy so far, and this is not part of the trilogy, obviously, but it's a character who was in the trilogy, so you don't have to read the Ruinous trilogy to read this, but it does give some like information that would kind of be like, that makes sense. At least it's specifically to the Butcher and Blackbird for this one. But basically, I'm horrible with remembering the names. But you have Harper and Nolan. Harper lives in a town called Cape Carnage. She helps this old man keep his property up, look nice, helps the town as well. Nolan, he comes and his specific purpose is to kill Harper because of something that happened in his past. But somehow he gets roped into helping Harper move of other bodies from a different serial killer to protect him while dealing with the fact that someone is watching them and stuff. So this one was pretty interesting. I was laughed because she always puts something in it. And I laughed because then my daughter she likes to read the trigger warnings to me. She's like, so how'd she ruin hamburger? And I was like, I don't remember that. And so I had to look it up. And then I was like, oh yeah, that part didn't seem that bad to me. And I was like, I don't know how that should be for me. The fact that that didn't ruin hamburgers for me, or the fact that I just didn't remember. If it was just like a thing that was briefly mentioned and was like, whatever. But I gave this a 4.5. I liked it. The only thing that I had an issue with is kind of the ending where Nolan kind of is learning the truth about Harper. And then there's like an additional kind of issue at the end where it's like it leaves like a kind of a cliffhanger, but also some plot holes. And as much as I don't mind cliffhangers, but it's when there's also a plot hole and it's like the story that's probably going to come after is not going to fill in that plot hole. So that's where my issue is. Next was The Naturals. I wanted to read this book. I think I've read Jennifer Lynn Barnes before. I think so. Either The Inheritance Game or something else. But this one follows people who are just naturally good at recognizing stuff. And the specific girl is Cassie, and she's good at reading people and knowing like things like how they like their eggs or something, or like they're prone to like doing this or something, right? And so her mother mysteriously died, and she gets a chance to go work with this FBI program as a bunch of teenager who's also kind of prone to knowing stuff. And then she's getting kind of internshipped into like learning specifically more stuff to become like an FBI profiler with some other kids in it. And then stuff's happening to where it's kind of feeling very similar to her mother's murder. And so she ends up having to deal with that. And this book was quick and interesting, and I liked it. I gave it 4 because it's just a little hard to believe it with teenagers. Like, that's a bit of the hard part. Like, they're older teenagers, but still is a little crazy. And then, of course, there's, again, still some loopholes, plot holes, all this stuff in there that just is like, makes it where it's harder to piece stuff together. And there's like a little bit of a love triangle, which I'm not a huge fan of. Like, I don't mind it for some, but like some of them too, it's just like, ugh. So there's a little bit of a love triangle in this. There's plot holes, some information where it's like, wouldn't you know that and stuff? So, but there is a second one. I might pick it up. I might not. I don't know. But it was pretty good. Next one was a TBR pick, which is My Roommate is a Vampire. It's about a girl. She needs a new place to live. She's getting kicked out of her place. She's an artist, but she's not like a conventional artist. So she finds a Craigslist ad that seemed too good to be true. Like this upper, like east side, west side, whatever kind of side apartment in like New York, I believe it is. Oh, Chicago. And the guy is renting it for very, very cheap. And she's like, oh, it doesn't make sense. But she goes and checks it out. Seems good, seems okay, right? Later on learns that he is in fact a vampire, which is a little corny and cheesy in the fact that she kind of didn't know, and then like he's trying to fit into society and stuff. It was a little corny and cheesy. I gave it a 3-star. It wasn't bad. It's just a little corny, cheesy, like one of those things where it's like this girl is like oblivious, and this vampire is just a century or two behind. So it wasn't bad. It was good. This is what I wanted it. I wanted a nice little palette cleanser and stuff. So I was a fan. And then the last book I read was Enchantra. This one, look at this pretty cover. And then the back. And then the sprayed edges. So this one is book 2 in the Phantasma series. I read Phantasma last year. I don't know what I gave it. I'll post the star rating for Phantasma over here. But this one follows her sister Genevieve. Genevieve is trying to learn more about herself. She thought she found someone who had talked to her mother before, and she comes to this place. Oh, what was it called? I think it was like Knox Hill or something. I don't know. It doesn't say on here. But she comes to this place. There's a family in there, and they tell her to leave. She doesn't because she wants answers. And then they say, well, now you're going to be stuck in here, and you're going to be stuck having to play this game. And the only way that's going to work is if you marry one of the boys. And so the guy who found her is like, I'm going to marry you. But his family, some of his family, his brothers, and like, I think he only had one sister, are kind of mad because, again, if they get married and he wins, they both can leave permanently, and then the rest of the family's stuck. And they've been doing this for years. And the reason they're doing this, though, is because their mother is sick. And the guy in charge of the game is a devil who's able to say, hey, I can help keep your mother healthy for a year, but you gotta play my game. And like the winner doesn't have to go in the pits of hell for a year, but then has to come back and do it. But then, like I said, if they get married and they win, then they don't have to play at all. And they know the devil's not gonna like that. So it's interesting. The siblings are really funny. I like the siblings and the banter and stuff. And they each have like a magical ability and stuff. And then there's a fox. They each have like familiars as well, which were interesting and fun. So I like that. And then it was so fun. I loved it. It was good. This was a 5-star. I loved it. The ending too was just like so sad and like upsetting, but then it was like happy, and like they're continuing the series, I think, but like with a different, like not exactly the two sisters, but then now moving on to the Silver family and their siblings, and they're finding out like about how to help their mom. So I can't wait for that. But yes, so those are all the books I read in the month of March. Like I said, I did have a DNF as well. And then I am currently reading one that will probably get finished next month. But if you like this, make sure you like and subscribe, comment, and tell me what books you read. Did you read any of these books in March as well? Have you read them before? Are you looking for new books? Tell me. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.